I'll just straight up start up with the first question, the infamous first question. What is Breakcore?
Um, well, I think this is probably the most complicated question that you could ask. I think no one really knows at this point. Um, yeah, like I think that's just kind of where we are right now. I think like even back when I started, it was like really, like it became like a sort of meme in like breakcore groups to be like, so what is breakcore, and you would have people like
Yeah.
argue over it, and that was in like 2011, 2012. So it's like it's not just a thing that's been going on now, like it's been like even then. So yeah, like I think everyone has their own weird definition, and like even with like my definition of like it's like hard to electronic music with like complicated like sample based drums sequences in it, like even then like there's a lot of stuff that I listen to that I would consider breakcore that doesn't really fit into that definition. So it's like, yeah, I don't know, it's a case by case basis, I guess.
Hmm. Okay. Um. So if it's like not really agreed upon, maybe in like the general sense, is it?
Mm.
Do you think it's more like an ethos, a culture? Like what is it about? What is Breakcore about?
Well, I mean, breakcore started as like a very political music genre, like in the 90s. Like it was extremely political, like sort of like counterculture, like punk kind of thing, So in that sense, I think that that definitely used to be true. But then once it opened up a little bit more, like in sort of like the early 2000s, mid 2000s, and it became um, more like a sort of hard dance music genre, I guess. There wasn't really like a lot of like ethos still in there. I think there's probably artists that have a strong ethos, but like as a genre, I would struggle to come up with like a unifying thing. You know what I mean? Like it's like I said, you've asked the hardest question in my opinion
Yeah.
right at the beginning. It's there's not really, I don't know. You know, I
Yeah.
can't really find like a unifying thing that, it's like, oh, all of these people have this one thing in common. Like it's a super varied genre, and I think that's why I like it. My ex-girlfriend used to always say it's like breakcore is sort of like the other box in music, when you have like when you're answering a questionnaire and it's like other, like that's breakcore, it doesn't really fit in with like anything else.
Okay. Yeah. I've the other people I've talked to, other artists I've talked to, kind of describe Breakcore as like a really a really extreme form of self-expression. Would you
Mm-hmm.
tend to agree with that? Like it's mainly for like people that like have their own self-interest and they get into the genre and they really want to express themselves. At least that's what Puke Girl told me, especially um, when people wanted to start putting like J-core elements and like anime aesthetics into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I can't really speak for other people. For myself, it was always just like I just enjoyed the aspect of just creating like complicated drums. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
that was what I enjoyed about it. I never really. I always kind of rejected the idea that like that sort of that Breakforce one stuff, or like even the stuff that I do now is like, sort of like radical self-expression or whatever, like I think like every track that I make is just like its own thing, sort of, and it's just like whatever I'm up for at the moment, but like the vast majority of it is just like I hear something that I like and I'm like, I want to try that, like it's like a hobby thing, like kind of like challenging myself or whatever. And like with breakcore, it was, like kind of like slicing breaks just kind of became like a skill that I wanted to get like really really good at. So that was like the main motivation for me to like go about making that genre. But like I don't really, like, it was never like important to me in the sense that like, oh, like this is who I am, and like this is how I get across what's going on in my soul or whatever, like it was always just like it's either like a silly thing to do or like just like a hobby kind of thing, when you're like trying to get better at drawing, you want to like how crazy can you take this on like a complexity level or whatever. That's what it was like for me.
Yeah, yeah, that's actually a pretty good point you bring up because I've ran into a lot of artists that treat breakcore. They hold it more, for lesser words, dear to their heart. And it's actually interesting to hear a perspective where it's a hobby and it seems like you do it for fun in that manner. Would you say?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was always it, and like I'm glad that like it resonated with people. But it's just fun. It's silly music, like deeply silly. No matter how hard and how serious it sounds to me, it's always just funny. So it's like, yeah, I don't know.
So I mean, expound on that. Like, how did you get specifically into this genre? How did you like find it? How did you think? Why was it so appealing and all that stuff?
Well, I had like some touching points with like music that was a little bit like breakcore, like when I first heard "Come to Daddy" by Aphex Twin on like some MTV like music clip compilation show or whatever. I was like, man, this is like fucking sick, like this is, I was like sort of like metal kid back then, I was like 11, something like that, and I was like, this is cool that like, like this is just aggressive and like it's just drums going crazy or whatever. But like I wasn't really at that point yet where I had like, full internet access and all of this kind of stuff. So like I didn't really think about like, oh, like I was, even young, like I wasn't part, like I wasn't really aware of like stuff like a music scene, like the concept of what a music scene is, you know what I mean? So I didn't really think about like, um, like there could be more of it out there or whatever. That was always just like there were a few tracks that I always knew kind of, and like I really enjoyed, and I was like, this is really cool. But like the actual point where I was like just genuinely getting into breakcore as like a thing. It was a video that I saw. Like that was must have been like 15 or something like that, and I told the story like so often, but like it's like I was really into like sort of like very like gory like movies because like my parents were like really trying to shelter me from like violent media and stuff like that, and then they made the mistake of giving me like internet access. So the first thing I did obviously was like, just like what's like the worst thing, the worst
Yeah.
horror movie you can watch, you know and that kind of like spiraled into like a pretty unhealthy obsession with sort of like Japanese like gore stuff, and like like the Chinese cat free like movies, and like just all of this like horrible like splatter movie stuff. And there was like a video that someone made, and I actually got in touch with him over Steam like years later and told him like what a profound impact he had on my life. But like he cut together like different like just kind of like like score clips from like different horror movies, and he underlaid it with just the Venetian Snare Skeletchairs remix.
Oh, yeah, that
And
makes
and I was
sense.
like, this is like, I think this is like the best thing I've ever heard in my life. And like someone in the comments there was like, oh, I love Breakcore or whatever. I was like, oh, what's this? Then typed in Breakcore into YouTube, and that was basically the day that I was like, okay, so this is like a thing now. So I just listened to like, basically everything I could find. Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny. I was literally thinking of Skelecheers when you were describing that. That music video
Yeah.
makes quite a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean that's just like it's like a lot of people. That was like the first song that they heard. Like my friend Leon, Gore shit. Like this is also the first song that he heard, and like he's like like 10 years older than me, and that must have been like fucking like 15 years before I first heard it. You know what I mean? So like it's funny that like so many people kind of like that was like the first song that they've heard. I don't know why that is because it's not even like the best Venetian Snares track. It's just
Yeah.
like just seems to be like out there, I guess.
Yeah. Speaking of like the way the culture has changed over the years and how people have been impacted by songs, what do you think of this of like the current iteration of how breakcore is? What do you think of breakcore today?
um I don't really care. Like I think people are like angry about it, and like I've kind of got bored by breakcore, before all of that kind of stuff happened anyway. So like, for me it's not really like, it wasn't really like a loss, you know. Um I think like the most extreme emotion that I have about it, I guess, is that I'm amused by how shit it is. um, you know, but like I don't have like I don't think that it doesn't have a right to exist, or I think that like, oh, they shouldn't call it break or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I think it's awful, but like it's a subjective thing, I think, and they can do what they want. I don't feel like I've lost something. If that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah, because I've if you browse the Breakcore subreddit for even just a little bit, you'll see there's a lot of
Mm.
angry people on there. They're mad with the anime
Yeah.
aesthetics. They're mad with just modern renditions of mislabeling and all that stuff. What do you
Oh, I mean,
think? What do you think of that?
I'm a well, I'm aware of it. Like I'm not so much aware of like the subreddit because I'm not really active on Reddit, but like I co-run, or well, I'm like moderate. Okay, well, I used to moderate. I'm still moderator, but I'm not really active on there anymore. But I used to moderate the like the biggest breakcore group on Facebook.
Hmm.
And I still get like, I still get like notifications of people like asking to join, and like everyone, we have like, because we had like a big bot problem, we like we just made them answer like one question, which is like name any breakcore artist, which is like just makes them type something in, like proof that they're not a robot. Um, and just like everyone that joins now is like, sewer sluts and, all of those like kind of like, it was just people that I've never heard of, It's just, I
Hmm.
don't know. So it's like, I don't know, like I think, things have shifted, but like I think that those people are probably gonna have like a pretty bad time because like a lot of the stuff that's posted in there is still stuff that I consider breakcore. So, they wanna listen to like this sort of like ambient, nice, sort of pleasant music to study to or whatever, and then they're like confronted with like horrifically offensive noise, from like the sort of mid 2000s, and like I think like it makes me laugh, but I don't know, like that's the most I can say to it. I don't think it's like an emotionally charged thing, and I think that people that get upset about it, they, I don't know, I don't really um like when I started, there was also gatekeeping, you know what I mean, like like people that were into that sort of like first wave of breakout that I was talking about, the like politically charged 90s stuff, they were like actively just trying to tell people like me, being like, this what you're doing is not real breakcore or whatever. So like that already was a thing, like when I when I did breakcore. So it's I think nothing really has changed. It's just the like the generation has shifted, like now the people that are of my era of breakcore, if you want to call it that, are like shitting on people of like the new era of breakcore. So, it's just, I don't know, it's nothing new in my opinion. Yeah.
All right, yeah. So the sentiment has been around forever. The when people say this isn't breakcore, it's not a new thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but there's like this modern rendition, this new way that people are mislabeling it seems a bit different. No, it's straight up like a lot of these projects is it's just drum and bass. So at what point do you
Yeah.
think that like a breakcore track just stops being a breakcore track in that
I don't know.
regard?
Like I said, it's like a case on case basis. Like things are just so like muddled. I guess like I think breakcore is kind of like always has like this sort of like sense of like either speed or aggressiveness or like experimentation to it. You know what I mean? So there's like a lot of stuff that like a lot of like sort of raga jungle, for example, where like the lines are really blurred to like breakcore as well, and then it's like you're just sort of like arguing over semantics at that point, and like yeah, but like I think that to qualify as breakcore, I think there needs to be like a certain aspect of complexity and like aggression and like experimentation to it, you know what I mean, where like it needs to be, there needs to be like a little bit of like challenge, I guess, to it, but I like I said, it's like a case on case basis. I've been finding some stuff in like breakcore playlists on Spotify that I would consider breakcore, and it has been made by people with anime profile pics in like the last year. You know what I mean? So it's
Mm.
like I don't know, like there's not, it's complicated, but like the sort of like ambient breakbeat stuff at like 140 or whatever, like that's very very not breakcore to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, going circling back to what you said about breakcore at least commonality being very fast, very like splintered beats, very experimental, very technical. Andrew Wellen in his book likes to describe it as tightness. The tightness of the edits is what makes breakcore. What do you think? What do you think qualifies as technicality, as technical skill in the genre?
I don't think that like making particularly complex breaks is like a prerequisite to make a breakcore track. Like I think you can also just kind of like make pretty simple break beat stuff and then just distort it or whatever to like to fit into the breakcore thing. So it's like I don't know, like it like this is just like a matter of like personal preference. Like I enjoy like really, really pushed sort of like, like what can you do with the aim and break? You know what I mean? Like I'm excited by that. So like whenever I hear something that I haven't heard before, like I immediately go like this is really cool, like someone there has like really put some thought into that. And then a lot of the stuff that I still listen to, breakcore wise, is like just hyper complex. So for example, like my favorite breakcore release of all time is by Tective, and it's called the Black Dog Released, and it's always like sort of like the sort of gold standard of like what I consider to be good breakcore, because it's like it's super aggressive but like super technical as well. You know what I mean? But like I don't think that is how breakcore has to sound to be breakcore. So like a lot of the sort of like 2005-ish kind of like UK breakcore stuff. Like that's pretty simple when it comes to breaks, but like it has a lot of like sort of like challenging sampling and like distortion and like a sort of roughness to it, for example. You know what I mean? And then that's also really exciting, I guess. But like it doesn't really, there's not really a lot of skill involved in that of like producing it. So like it's your, I don't know. It's like I think there's like a certain level of like you're approaching it from like a wrong angle, I think, because you're essentially just like, it's like asking someone who likes metal is like, what do you think is a good riff? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like can be literally anything. It's like if you whether or not you're like into grindcore or into like fucking like just really complicated like math core stuff that's just
yeah,
like all over the place time signature wise. Like there's not really like there's not really like a unifying thing there as well.
yeah, yeah. I get you. I listen to metal quite a bit, and I'd probably point to impressive stuff more in brutal death metal, but that's
Yeah.
not obviously the de facto. That's not actually the thing that everyone's going to agree on. That's an interesting point.
But then if you listen to
Yeah,
doom metal and someone wrote like a really nice melody, just like at like a tenth of the speed that's going on in like like brutal death metal, that's also like another different kind of skill set.
yeah.
So it's like, yeah, like it's hard to find commonality between those things, I guess.
Speaking of that, I wanted to circle back to when you were talking about your fascination with the Amen break. It seems like almost every breakcore artist has a fascination with the Amen break. Why is it so special?
That's a good question, actually. I think it just lends itself well to sort of like edits, I guess. I mean, like even if you, I don't know, like I don't know how deep you are into like into like the production side of music, but like if I think that I have like a folder on my hard drive, a sample folder with amens in it, and there's probably like I don't know, like I've cut it down massively now, but like it's like a gigabyte or 2 gigabytes of like amens, like hundreds and hundreds of amens, and they all sound different. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah,
just that alone is like just all the different processing, and like they're all just recognizable as like an amen, but like they sound different, and there's different things you can do with them. And I don't know, like there's just a lot of breakbeats that don't really have that sort of flexibility in the sense of how good they sound when you mangle them, I guess. And I don't know, like that's a question that is far beyond my reach. It's just like an aesthetic, I think, that people just agree is good, whether or not that is because it has been established as one or because it's just actually the best break. Like no one, I don't think no one can say for sure. It just has become a thing, I guess, and it has been a thing for decades before I started getting into the music.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess what I've heard from everyone is that it's like one of the most malleable things ever. Like people have like splintered the beat so much that they've like
Yeah.
literally rearranged it to the point where they might as well just make their own beat.
Yeah.
How did you learn about breakcore production? Like how did you get into that? And like what was your process of like learning it?
Um, well, just just practice and like like a lot of help from just people, like I there was my friend Pepcore who has basically started when I started making music. That was like one of my first sort of like friends in Breakcore. He ran the I Hate Breakcore forum for like ages. He bought the domain and kind of ran it for a while. And he was just kind of showing me around like FL Studio like when I first started, and that was like the first step. And then like everything after that is literally just like a mixture of just like finding stuff on your own, trying to remake things, and like just getting tips from other producers. Like it's like I think I was really lucky in choosing a scene that is so like helpful, or used to be so helpful. You know what I mean? And I think that was like a big part of it. And like I've tried to do the same thing for other producers as well. Like when they ask me for things, I try. It's not always possible, but like I try to make time and like just kind of like explain stuff to them, because like a lot of the stuff that I know now, the majority of stuff that I know now is based on what other people have told me, and like just them taking time for me to like explain stuff to me. So that was kind of the thing there.
Yeah. Would you say for people that want to get into breakcore production to like follow a similar path that you did, just get like basically just like networking essentially, on like
Mhm.
finding things, or do you think that there's like with like the way breakcore has evolved from the IRL scene to the URL scene now, there's like a more online way to learn it? What do you think?
Well, I mean, like the when I started making Breakcore, it was already online. Like, I mean, you referenced like Andrew Wellen, and like his book is based on it being an internet genre. And like I don't know when he wrote that dissertation, but like that SoulSeek chat room has been around for like
Yeah.
fucking ages. Like it's always been like more of an, well, not always, but like it's been online for a very, very, very long time, like early 2000s. Like it's such a like small scene that's so like spread around the globe that like there's no other way for it to be a scene other than online. You know what I mean? Like you have some hotspots, of course, where like in the UK you still get like breakcore gigs and whatever, and like some in America as well. But like all of these are like really underground and like kind of like local. So like the thing in general has always been online. And like I come from like a small German village where no one's even heard of like drum and bass. You know what I mean? So it's like there was no one around to like kind of network with. So like it's always been online for me. um and to answer your actual question, is I think that um it's probably harder now to make sort of quote unquote like real breakcore than it was when I started. Because like a lot of the breakcore tutorials, which I watch for my own amusement, they're all also just horrible. So like I hate to promote myself here, but like I decided to like put my money where my mouth is, and like did like the best shot at like just telling everyone like the most of the things that I know. And like I uploaded like a 2.5 hour long sort of like thing of like how to slice breaks. You know what I mean? Just because like I was kind of like just laughing at like just people being like, oh, just copy and paste the aim a little bit and do some like awful edits. You know what I mean? And it's just like, I don't know, like it's not that difficult to actually do like the process of like putting effects on stuff and like slicing it up in like interesting ways. I think the real challenge is kind of like the sort of compositional thing of like making it flow, and like sort of like the rhythmic aspect, which is stuff you can't teach. But like I think that a lot of people just kind of get like the technical aspects of it wrong, and like sort of online tutorials and stuff like that. And so I would, I don't know, like I said, I'm not out to promote myself here, but like I think that if you want to learn about like breakcode tutorials, you either watch mine, or if you're an Ableton, you watch the tutorial series that Stasma did, which are also like absolutely fantastic. They're really good. but they're like the only ones that I've seen that I think are like actually helpful. So yeah.
Yeah, don't worry about plugging. I actually watched your video about that. I've seen quite a few of the quote unquote breakcore tutorials, and you by far have probably one of the most concise ones. I think I had one more question, but I think I forgot it.
No worries. Might come back to you. It's fine. I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry.
No, this is great. This is great. We've already went through basically almost all of the questions, but I did have one that was on the fly. I'm trying to. Oh my gosh, it's still in my head. Give me a second. Try to re-click my thoughts here. Oh yeah, it's not coming back. Yeah, this was basically all the questions. Have you read Andrew Welland's book?
Oh God, no.
Okay. It's
of course not.
I mean, it's pretty. The language and it's pretty rough. I mean,
It's a dissertation, isn't it? Like it's a just
it is. Yeah,
scientific
I had to.
thing, yeah.
It's like a anthropology thing. I had to like look up every other word as I was reading it. It's really insightful, but it's pretty rough. It's pretty funny actually. When you mentioned that gatekeeping has always been in the genre, there's a similar point in Andrew Welland's book, and he quoted a chat log, and it was this guy that said there is no proper etiquette to the use of amens in breakcore. Basically said you can't use an amen in breakcore. It's not creative enough. I thought that was that was really funny to me. So I guess it's always been that.
So how you? Let me ask you a question. I know that like you've started this process of making this video when like 2 or 3 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
So like how do you think it's going for you? Has it been insightful, or are you kind of like are you any wiser?
Yeah, to give context, I made a video a long time ago, probably 2-3 years ago, where I tried making a small video about breakcore. It was about like 10-ish minutes long, and it was just completely wrong. It was exactly what every tourist does when they get into it. They listen to a few things, they think they know everything, and then they try explaining it. I was a classic case of like I was confusing drum and bass, hardcore, jungle, ragged jungle. I was confusing all these subgenres with each other, and I got a lot of love and I got a lot of backlash on that video. So I was like, I'll take it down. I'll do my proper research on this. Get in contact with artists like you, Puke Girl, Dave, all those guys, and see what I can find. I'll watch the documentary. I'll watch notes on breakcore. I'll read Andrew Welland's book. And after doing all that, I I can say that I haven't there really isn't such a conclusive definition on the genre. There is no like you can't get an epistemological answer. You can't get certainty, a knowledge certainty like a no, straight up no. And to some degree, I probably won't as other people, because other people, they've been in the scene, such as yourself. There's people that have been in the scene longer. Like you just had to be there, kind of thing, to understand it. And as an outsider looking in, it's kind of dawned on me that knowing what breakcore is seems to be somewhat of a non-issue for the artists. A lot of the artists seem to be using it as a medium for self-expression, as a medium for fun. In the words of Alec Empire, whatever, just make it fast, kind of thing. So yeah. At the end of the day, it's like I more so got to learn about a community, about its culture, how it's evolved over the years, in fighting. It's really interesting, and I could say my video may not give like a decisive definition, but it does give a survey into what's happened over the years. I'm pretty confident in the information in it. I don't think many people have gone to this lengths to even read Welland's book, and I've had SC Dave consult me on the scripting of the video, and he's probably gonna look at the final product. So
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah, yeah.
just be prepared that you're still gonna get a lot of hate from, maybe
Oh
like
yeah.
the first wave breakcore people, you know what I mean? So like it's still gonna happen. But yeah, I have, Godspeed
Yeah, thank you.
and good
Yeah.
luck. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean I've watched some videos just earlier to prepare for this, and like, I think I remember when your video came out, I think that was like probably like the first one. I want to say, like, I wasn't really aware of like video essays on the subject before that.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, good on you for that, or for first part. And what I can say is that you trying to do better is something that no one else seems to bother with.
Thank you. Even
So
though it may
yeah,
seem fruitless.
I've watched a lot of very wrong things today. Yeah,
Nice. Yeah. I've
yeah.
seen them come out over the years and I'm like, don't release it. I'm making something right now. Don't take all the thunder.